All right. So today on our show, we have Cory and I might brutalize the names, and Jessica Walla. They're master breathwork facilitators and founders of the Reset Breathwork method, known as the Healing Couple. They lead soul-changing experiences to help high achievers heal from the inside out, unlock ultimate freedom, and amplify their lives and their impact. As a neuropathic physician and yoga teacher, they've traveled the world and experienced everything from plant medicine, talk therapy, yoga, personal development seminars, shamanic journeys, silent meditation retreats, you name it, and I'm sure they've experienced it. But nothing came close to breathwork for long-lasting transformation, which I'm super excited to dive into how that becomes the epitome of all of them. Through breath, they've transmuted years of anxiety, burnout, and depression into deep inner peace and self-love, and I'm sure loving each other, abundance in life and business, and true happiness from within. Today, Cory has stepped away as a full-time physician, and together they've supported thousands of humans all over the globe through their events, group programs, and coaching, as well as train others to become Reset Breathwork facilitators through their certification program. Their mission is to impact millions of lives because they believe that together we can heal the world, and it starts with your breath. Love it. Love it, love it, love it.
That last
super
slide,
excited. Oh, of course. You know that was like one of those moments where it's like, download. Oh, that's hot. So super excited to have you two here. Of course, there's me, Oliver, as your co-host. We've got David as your co-host, and then Cory and Jessica are here. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, we're super excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Dave, I'll let you take the lead on how we'd like to start with this.
Totally. Cory, Jessica, the first thing we really want to dive into with you is, I mean, it's amazing what you both have done in the world of breathwork. And I've heard a little bit about your vision on how you plan to bring breathwork into the world in an even bigger way. But before we dive into all of that, I would love to backtrack a little bit and understand what really got you here. I'd love to understand a little bit more of the hero's journey that brought you from into this moment where you're now giving this gift of breathwork. Because I'm sure this wasn't always a thing. I'm sure you weren't born deciding to do breathwork. In fact, so many people are not even aware of the power of breath. And I'm hearing you say, it was more powerful than any medicine ceremony that you've ever done. And I think it's a pretty bold statement. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about how that happened.
Yeah, well, I think me and Jessica led very different lives prior to us meeting up with each other. And I think it was really on purpose. We actually I knew her boyfriend from high school, and like we've had all these like points where maybe we almost intersected, but we didn't until just 5 years ago. We've only been in a relationship for 5 years, in business for 4. But yeah, like you said, the backtrack, how did it all start? Well, I was from the Midwest. I wanted to help my mother because she was really, really sick when I was 15, 16 years old. And I ended up going down this whole path of alternative medicine. I grew up in the Midwest, so we didn't know a lot about that. We just had our local chiropractor who knew a little bit about functional medicine, a little bit about nutrition. And so it was a whole new world for me. And the way that I operate is based upon feeling. So I've done a lot of crazy things in my life. And one of the craziest things I did was realize, hey, I heard about this naturopathic medicine thing. I'm going to fly down to Arizona, where I know one of the only accredited schools are, check it out for a day, and then decide. And I loved it, signed up. The rest was history. Did 4 years of that and really learned a lot, but my health decreased in a significant way. Like I lost a lot of weight. I ended up developing an autoimmune disease in a naturopathic medical school setting, right? How crazy is that? Like you're supposed to learn about natural health and I'm getting sicker. And so I got out of it, started practice right away, ended up teaming up with a couple of my colleagues in school, and we developed this whole system for healing, and it went really well, like really well. So we ended up doing a build out about 3 years in, right out of medical school. And it was this big thing. We ended up having like 10 employees, 5 or 6 doctors. It was this whole thing. And it really felt like this was my moment, this culmination of like blood, sweat, tears, crazy amounts of medical school, getting sick in medical school, starting to heal my body while I'm doing all this stuff. And without me really knowing it, her uncle did my build out. And so I started to get to know her through that. And she actually wanted to come all the way from San Diego, where she was living at the time, to Phoenix, Arizona for this big, huge grand opening that I was having at this center. And it was way bigger than I thought I was going to be. Like 200 people showed up. We had a bar. The mayor of Scottsdale showed up, and he even had that ribbon, you know, like that big dorky ribbon with the golden scissors. And there was the local TV channels. So I'm sitting here experiencing this all in this really weird way of like, okay, this is my life, but it's not really my life. This is everything I've done, but is this really me? And he's like cutting the scissors, and it gets to this moment where like time stops. Have you ever experienced that before?
Everything
where, like,
slows down.
Everything slows down.
Totally.
And then he cuts the ribbon, and like this feeling inside of my heart and my gut, like my stomach just dropped. And I remember looking around and going, oh my God, this isn't my life. What have I done? And that's really the moment where I started to realize, while everything on the external looked perfect or was constructed in a way in which I was meeting everybody else's expectations, I had no idea who I was. I was in this doctor coat with a stethoscope, with the mayor of Scottsdale next to me and everybody else, and I didn't know who the fuck I was. And that was terrifying. And at the same time, a huge opportunity for me to start turning it around. And so, long story short, like fast forward, I ended up dealing with a lot of hardships. My business partners ended up asking me to leave because I was just not as committed as I was before. I was in a relationship that fell apart. I also experienced financial hardship. I reached a point where literally I had $0 in my bank account, had to call my mom and be like, hey mom, can you put gas in my car? Because I'm apparently 16 years old again and can't get home. And so I had all these moments, but I kept striving for, what do I want my life to look like? How do I want to feel? And I was willing to take it to the nth degree and step away from this practice. I had $70,000 invested in it and start a new life. And so me and Jessica ended up dating long distance. We connected, and then she had me what's up? She had me out in San Diego in like no time.
And so during this time, we started dating, and I was doing yoga teacher training at the time. And when I was in yoga teacher training, I was thinking, okay, I'm going to do this training. And then after that, I'm going to become a yoga teacher. And then I'm just going to grow my yoga business. That was my path, my vision. And as I was moving through the training, I got introduced to this breathwork modality. And I experienced breathwork for many, many years prior, but never a practice that was this powerful. And I remember it just blew my mind. I had all these crazy visions. It really opened me up to really belief in myself, and also really deep trust in not only myself, but in our relationship, because we were just starting to date at the time. And I remember I was very closed off. I had a really hard time trusting in relationships. And breathwork was the thing that really helped me unlock that so that we could connect even deeper. So like right off the bat in the beginning of our relationship, I just cracked open, and it really brought us so much closer together. And I remember having these like late night calls. I'm in San Diego, he's in Phoenix, and just sharing with him all of these experiences I was having during breathwork. And I was doing it week after week. And I was like, oh my God, this stuff is amazing. And he's just like, okay, like either like this.
So you're breathing?
Really, yeah.
What?
Like, either this stuff really works, or you're crazy and I need to get out of here. And
or more like, or you're crazy and I definitely need to meet you in person. That's probably what it was.
And that's what it ended up being. And so fast forward, I knew that I had to share this modality. It was helping me heal so much on a deep level that I was like, I have to share this with other people. And so I told Cory, I'm going to do breathwork teacher training. And he goes, I'm in, I'll do it with you. And I'm like, really? What? He's like, I trust this. Let's do it together. And we did. And then right after that, right out of the gate, we just started sharing breathwork with as many people as we could. We led our first workshop in San Diego, and we were just like, let's just share what we're most passionate about and really help people heal from the inside out.
Wow.
And we didn't know what to expect, but it ended up being completely sold out. We had a packed house, and we led a 2-hour workshop. And then at the very end, people were coming up to us and sharing like, oh my goodness, like I feel like a completely new person. Like you changed my life. Like just this 2-hour experience has turned everything around for me. Like I need to share this with my sister and my best friend. I need to tell everybody about this. Like, when's the next workshop? And we're like, like, put your name down on our mailing list that we don't have yet, and we'll get back to you on that. We had no plans. We didn't know that this was gonna grow into anything. We were just so passionate about sharing it with people. And we drove home that night. We packed everything up, and we pull into our driveway in Ocean Beach, California, this little beach bungalow. We're in the driveway. We're sitting in the car for probably a good hour, just talking about the night. Like, oh my goodness, and all these incredible breakthroughs. And there came a point where we like slowly turned to each other. Is this moment where, again, time slowed down. And I said, we have to keep doing this. We have to keep doing this. And then eventually Cory ended up walking away from being a naturopathic physician full time and, took the leap, and we just went all in. And we're like, we're just going to keep sharing this. And now we're at a point where we've led this work for thousands and thousands of people all over the globe. We've done this in Bali, led an international breathwork retreat in Bali. We do so many virtual sessions. We're a part of an incredible money membership with Tori Washington, where we help people liberate financial trauma and experience financial liberation through breathwork and through movement for people all over the globe. It's
so cool.
It's been so cool, but we've had to really evolve ourselves throughout this entire journey to get here. It's not only have we helped people heal themselves, but we've healed along the way too.
Of course. I love that. There's so many things on that. And I'm sure, David, you're chomping at the bit to jump in. One of the things that I have to talk on first is because it's so in alignment with the idea of Beyond the Peak, which again, Beyond the Peak, real quick, is just this idea that people set these large goals and they will sacrifice almost everything to achieve them. And then once they hit it, often what happens with these high performers, these entrepreneurs, so on and so forth, is they'll feel empty inside and say, wait, why is that it? Right. And we get that happens a lot. It's
really me.
Exactly. Right. And so I needed to touch on that because that's one of our questions we love to ask is like, hey, what's a Beyond the Peak moment that you had, or a moment where, again, you achieved something of greatness and felt unfulfilled? And so I would love to explore that a little bit more, Cory, if that's all right, where, again, this moment, right, that slow motion moment where you've, like you said it yourself, you put your blood, sweat, and tears, and then it just slows down. You're like, wait a second, like, this isn't me. Like this is somebody else's life. This is what the world has projected onto me, what I should be doing to some degree in some way. And so I'm super curious, how did you move through that in that now? Like when that was happening, that was like the live moment. How did you navigate that? How did you actually lose control for a little bit and go down? Like what was that experience, and how did you get yourself out?
I think that, like I had mentioned, what ended up happening was everything started to unravel because I started to listen to everything in my life differently. Like even that night, the night of the opening ceremony, the ribbon cutting, all that, Jessica was there. I was just starting to get to know her, and my business partner was there as well. And I'm not here to speak badly of anyone, but I started to listen to how he was talking to her. And I realized how controlling he was just in his interaction with her, and how that controlling nature was showing up in my business relationship with him. I was like, oh, he's got my number. I do everything for him, and there was no energetic exchange. And so I started to listen to people from that different lens. And I think that's when the unraveling happened. And I started to act differently, and I started to like stand up for myself and follow through what I desired I wanted to do. And other people in my life that were used to me being the yes man didn't like that so much. And so I'd say initially, for people that are listening, if you had that kind of moment where you realize that you're living life based upon other people's expectations, just start by listening from that different lens and start to discern from yourself, which direction do you want to go? Because a no to someone else is a yes to you.
Yes.
So I started saying no to a lot of other fucking people. And it wasn't like, no, I hate you. No, I never want to talk to you again. It's like, no, I'm not going to do that thing because it's not in alignment with what my desires are. Or no, I'm not going to follow through on what we usually do because this is what I'm feeling. And so I started to say no to people, and they weren't used to that. And that's okay. And so in that chaos, I started to really get the space to discover who I was.
Love that. Love that.
So
I'll chime in real quick. And David, I know you want to get in there. Just real quick.
Before you do, because it's just
here we are. Let's go.
going in. One of our coach friends, to what you said, Cory, about saying no. Yes. Really good friend of ours says, if I can trust your no, I can trust your yes. That's what I hear in that. It's like, you began to say no, and the wrong people, maybe they couldn't trust your no, but they were the wrong people, and the right people would come along to trust your no, and therefore get to know what a true, authentic yes is for you.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, it goes along the lines of, I'll piggyback that. In fact, that was the feedback given to me, wasn't it, at our men's circle? Okay. Yeah. I was like, wait a second. I think the other thing that's powerful is, of course, by saying less yeses, each yes is more impactful. Mm-hmm. Right. You're not as like, your yes hasn't been spread so thin that it has no value, just like the dollar these days. So that's awesome. David, I'd love to let you ask a question. I'm sure you're thinking about. Yeah,
well, I would just love to see the other side of it too, and ask you, Jessica. I mean, I hear your journey of getting into yoga teacher training and then breath work, and some of it sounds pretty effortless in the path that you went to, but I'm sure it wasn't always that way. I'm sure that there was some of your own battles that you had to face up against, or some of your own paradigms of how you were brought up in the world that you had to face up against and recognize that you were going to walk your own path. Would you be able to share what some of those may have been along your journey of stepping into this, and maybe some of an old self that you had to let go of to embrace this version of you that you are now?
Totally. Yeah, I don't think that it's ever effortless for anyone. And I think a lot of people do a very good job of making it seem, effortless. They're like, oh, I just did this and I did this and then this. And it's just like, boom, it just like happened and it was successful and amazing. And for me, before I even got into yoga teacher training, I was I worked at Stanford University, and then after that I had worked for a startup in New York City. And I was working for a lot of incredible people, a lot of thought leaders, New York Times bestselling authors. I was doing social media, audience development, event planning, all of this really fun stuff. But I was the person that was behind the scenes. So I was working for these really big leaders and learning a lot from them and really seeing what true success and leadership really is. And while I loved what I was doing, I realized that I had a message to share. Like, I had so many tools that had helped me grow and heal that I wanted to share them. But I often found myself caught up in self-doubt, kind of caught up like in the shadows of like, who am I to do this? Like, do I really have an important enough message? I'm helping other people with theirs, but I was having trouble with my own voice. And I actually attribute that to even like going back to like my childhood. I grew up in a household with 2 deaf parents and a deaf brother. And so it was a very quiet household.
Wow. That's amazing. Like, that's so interesting. I'm so excited to hear how that would like frame your understanding of the world.
Totally. Mm-hmm. And so I was often much more quiet, much more shy. I didn't use necessarily my voice a ton with my family. Right. And so I noticed how that maybe inhibited me for a bit. But it was through breath work, especially during the yoga teacher training, when I started practicing breath work more consistently, it opened up my voice. Like, I mean, I would scream, I would yell, I would say, yes, like I felt like I was on top of the world. And it cracked me open in this way where it was like, yes, my voice does matter. I do have something to say. And there's people out there that need to hear it, that can really benefit from it. I can make an impact with my message and what I have to share. And so that it took time, but it allowed me to keep showing up, to teach classes, to be comfortable in front of people and to connect with people in this way. And now it's like, I can teach in front of hundreds of people. And it's like, it makes me feel so alive, and I love it. Whereas before I would have been scared shitless. I remember giving a presentation in high school in front of, my classes in front of 20 people, and like losing my breath, like being so short of breath and being so embarrassed. And so I've totally turned that story around from like, oh, I can't talk in front of people, to like put me on a stage. And that's really where I'm meant to be.
Yeah. So good. Amazing. So I'd love to steer the conversation into talking a little bit about breath work and the work that you guys do and the work that you bring to the world, because I feel like there might be some people who listen to this who don't understand breath work, can't fathom how breath, just we breathe every day. How can it be so transformative? How can it lead me to healing? How can it lead me to breakthroughs? You're saying that it's led you to completely unleashing your own voice and really activating your own voice. And like, to some people that might seem so foreign, and even to those in the breathwork community, you both have mentioned a couple times now that the way you do things are a little bit differently, and the way that you have come into the world of breathwork, and the way that you teach it and facilitate it and help other breathwork facilitators is a little bit unique. So I'm hoping you could give us like a little kind of like maybe 2 layers here. The first layer of like, what actually is breath work? How is it so powerful? Share a little bit about that. And the second layer of how do you both do it differently?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, let's dive in. I'm like, let's get ready. So I will first of all say that I totally understand anybody who's skeptical, or anyone who thinks like that's bullshit or that's weird. I'm not so sure how you can experience those kind of breakthroughs just with breathing. I get it. And we both were there in our own way. We're both from the Midwest, where these practices are not common. I had never heard of breath work, never done yoga, never had meditated when I first got into this work. So I understand. And also Cory, being a physician, can really speak a lot more to the science of all of this. But to really distill down what breath work is, I'd say there's 2 main components. One being, it's first an awareness of your breathing, because most of us are not even aware that we're breathing throughout the day. We don't think about the breath. It's automatic. We're breathing in and we're breathing out constantly, about 20,000 times a day. So it's actually dropping in, becoming aware of like, oh yeah, I'm breathing in and I'm breathing out. And naturally, just by becoming aware of your breath, it will start to deepen. And you may even notice as you're listening right now, you're like, okay, let me check in with how I'm breathing right now.
100%. I'm like breathing more deeply now.
Right. You notice, okay, am I breathing fast? Am I breathing slow, deep, shallow, smooth, choppy? And just that awareness can really help us tap into our nervous system, and it can really start to shift things. And then the second part of breath work is that it's a specific breathing pattern. So there's many different forms of breath work and many different patterns that you can breathe in, and they all have different benefits. Certain breathing patterns that you get into will help you to really energize the body. Certain patterns will help you to feel more calm, more grounded, some more balanced. There's many different benefits. But the specific modality that we have created, called the Reset Breathwork Method, it intentionally gets you into a sympathetic state. So essentially it gets you really energized. It really puts you into almost like a fight or flight state, but very intentionally. And why we do that is it helps kind of really ramp up your system, really bring a lot of energy and oxygen into the body. And by doing that, afterwards, once you come back into a restful state and we guide you through the entire process, it's almost like a rubber band. When you stretch the rubber band so much, that snapback, it's just like total euphoria. And I'd love if you wanted to jump in and kind of talk more about the method.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's intentionally created an experience. And the way that the brain operates, it is going to acclimate itself to the highest set point. And right now, why we are experiencing so much stress, depression, suicide, some really awful things are happening right now in our culture, and it's
lots
because
of
people
disease, right?
It's like people don't know how to modulate their own system, and your breath is really truly a mirror for your life. Every type of breath pattern has a corresponding emotion. We all know if you've had a partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, you walk into a room and they're crying, they're going to have a particular breath pattern, right? Probably up in their chest, shaking, right? Up here, I'm so upset, right? Or people that are depressed, maybe deep in their belly, really shallow, hardly breathing at all, hard, like almost lifeless. So we understand that, but what we don't get is that you can breathe in a particular pattern and create an emotional state in your body. You can do the opposite. So instead of being reactive to your life, being like, oh, I'm a depressed person, oh, I'm an anxious person, oh, I'm a person who's this, right? You can choose, hey, I'm going to take this reset breathwork technique. I'm going to give it 110%. I'm going to go farther than I ever thought possible. I'm going to breathe harder, bigger, faster, stronger. And I'm going to take my nervous system to this peak. And the nervous system is going to, holy shit, that's amazing. This is our new set point. And what, of course, there's a ton of other things that can happen, but that's really what happens is there's a new set point. And so people walk out of it and they're like, oh my God, I feel like a completely new human being. I don't even recognize myself. One of the most common things that we hear. And I love when I hear that because I go, yep, because they're not the same anymore.
Love that. Yeah. I love that. There's a couple of things I got to touch on that. One, your breath is a mirror to your life. Huge. It's like mic drop right there. I love that. And I think that it's just so powerful. Just as you were saying before, as you bring awareness to it, and Alan Watts talks about this in his meditative practices, where he talks about like just in becoming aware of your breath, you will immediately notice that it will begin to slow down, right? Yeah. Typically, like just that awareness right off the bat. And so that's awesome. One of the things I'm wondering if you guys are willing to do this, so putting you on the spot real quick, would you be willing to take us through like a short sort of breath work we can do, one that you feel would be great to the degree that even our listeners could actually listen at the same time and maybe join us?
Absolutely. I think a great place to start, one of my favorite simple techniques is called box breathing or square breathing. It's very simple. Anyone can do it. So you can do it right now with me if you want by closing.
I'm going to clear my throat. Here we go. Got to breathe. Allergy season, but I'll make it happen.
So you can close the eyes. You can do this sitting or lying down. And right away, begin to notice how you're breathing. Notice the rhythm and the pace of your breath, just as it is right now, without trying to change anything or force anything. Notice the state of your mind. There's lots of thoughts or few thoughts, or maybe one particular story on repeat. Just allow the thoughts to come and go. And then notice any emotions that are present, any sensations you may feel in the body where you might be holding those emotions. Perhaps there's love in your heart. Maybe there's some stress or anxiety you may feel in the chest. Maybe a weight on your shoulders. Just simply become aware of your whole body. Your whole body. Your whole body. Then bring your awareness back to your breathing. Maybe you've already noticed that it started to deepen or slow down. And with this box breath, you're going to imagine breathing in a box or breathing in a square. So we're going to breathe in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, exhale for 4, and hold for 4 for a few rounds. On your next inhale, begin to breathe in through your nose for a count of 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. And continue just for a few more rounds. We'll do 3 more. And notice if your mind wanders at any point. That's completely normal. Just bring your awareness gently back to your breathing. Breathing fully in and fully out. Your mind may wander to the past or to the future, but the breath is always in the here and now. Coming back into the present moment through your breath. Go ahead and finish the round that you're on, completing with an exhale. Just return to a normal breathing pattern when you're ready. Noticing any shifts, whether they're big or small, how you feel in your body right now. Maybe the mind is a little bit more quiet, the body a little bit more relaxed. And when you're ready with a smile on the face, even if you've got to fake it, you can open your eyes.
That was amazing.
Jessica, your voice is too majestic. I'm like, how happy we got that on recording, because I'm definitely going to play that one over.
That's going to be Oliver's morning.
Cut that segment.
Yeah, right there. No, it's great. Thank you so much. And I really hope that our listeners got to join in on that. And of course, if not, well, play it back. One question I have real quick, and then David, I'll let you take it, is what's your thoughts on if it's 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 7-second segments? Do the different times have different effects, or is it just a preference thing? Like, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah. For box breathing, I like to start with 4. 4 is a great place for people to start, because for some of us, a count of 4 can even be challenging. So you're like, I can't even breathe in for 4 seconds or even hold my breath for 4 seconds. So 4 I found is like a really sweet spot. But I always encourage people, the more that you practice this, increase the count. Go up to 5, 6, 7, 8 if you can. Because the more that we practice these kinds of techniques, the more that our lung capacity is able to expand and we can breathe much deeper. And people that work with us consistently will notice, okay, maybe they have a hard time breathing, where most of us are really shallow breathers, but over time they're like, wow, I feel like my chest and my heart and my belly is opened up so much more. Like I feel like I can fully take a breath now. So again, that's where we like to start. And then we always like to help people expand over time.
Love it.
Beautiful. Yeah, you're reminding me of a breathwork ceremony that I did once with Preston. Actually, he guided it. Him and Alexi guided it in the bridge experience.
Oh, cool.
And we did this experience, and I remember I was so astonished, because after about 15 to 20 minutes of doing this, on the exhale, we would hold, and we'd hold for a good amount of time. And then at one point, I just wanted to see how long I could hold for. And I remember holding for like 3, 4, 5 minutes after doing it for that long, because of all the oxygen that was in my body. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, how is this possible right now? How am I able to just hold this breath? But I recall that because it was one of the most profound experiences of my life. And I remember being in that ceremony, and what was so beautiful is not only did I feel like this immense amount of energy flowing through my body, but I felt a lot of this, like a fly that's going on my camera right now. But what was really cool was the release from stuck emotions in my body, where I felt areas of trauma or heartache, or even different parts of my body that I just consistently felt pain in. And I thought it was just normal. Little did I know that it was emotions that were actually stuck in my body that the breath released. And so I'd love to hear a little bit more about both of your perspectives on breath work for trauma release specifically. You know, it's so many people that are in deep anxiety right now. It's so many people who are in depressed states who, again, this pandemic might have taken away their job, and they're in situations where there's so much stress. I know breath work for myself has been a way of healing and moving through a lot of not only stress in the moment, but deep trauma that you've experienced since your childhood. And would you both be able to talk a little bit more about that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So this is where I'd like to start, which is thoughts are the language of the mind. Emotions are the language of the body. And how your mind operates as a record keeper for the past. That's a majority of what it does. It keeps score on what's good for you, what's bad for you, and it preferentially keeps score on what it thinks is bad for you, right? AKA trauma. As small as it is, if it was 4th grade when Jimmy kicked you at the playground, or if you've gone through a horrific thing like a genocide or rape, like all of that is along the rainbow spectrum of trauma, right? And the beautiful thing about breath work is that obviously you're hyperoxygenating your system, we're ramping up your nervous system, we're doing all that. But what we're doing is we're unraveling the trauma. And how that scientifically happens, you got to understand how trauma is recorded. So when you experience a traumatic moment where you're triggered, even if it's the smallest thing, that what happens is there's a certain neurocircuitry that gets connected. So there's neurons that connect, fire, and wire together, and they create a loop, a neural loop. When that happens, when those neurons fire, they release neurotransmitters. That neurons release neurotransmitters. All that is, that's emotion. Guess what? That emotion, it does not have a specific place that it goes. It goes into your bloodstream and drenches your whole body. I mean, how many times have we been triggered and then you feel it throughout your whole body? Whether it's anger, frustration, upset.
No idea what you're talking about.
You have, and you feel like you have no control, right? Well, it's because that neural loop has fired and then you get drenched in those emotions. And at a cellular level, what happens is those emotions then imprint on the genes inside your cells. It's called epigenetics. Epi means on top. So if you know what genetics are, genetics, the blueprint for your cells and how your cells reproduce, right? So there's epigenetics. So the emotion inserts itself on the epigenetics and creates a different code. So when you were breathing, David, and you were experiencing the liberation of past relationships, past traumas, and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that was possible. It's because you breathe so consistently to get your body into the present moment. And that opens your body up to go, oh, this is an opportunity to finally liberate that stuck trauma, liberate that emotional relationship so that we can be free, because the body knows how to do it. You just need to set it up for specific situations in which it knows it's safe, and then it can release those emotions. Because the thing is like animals, they got it down. Like go on YouTube right now, and type like animal near-death experiences, and you'll get a laundry list of seeing antelope and caribou and any kind of herbivore running away from a cougar and a tiger and almost dying. And then it gets away. And what happens? Usually it will get to a safe space. It will fall over, hyperventilate, breathe really, really deep, fast, like we do during our breathwork sessions, shake. I'm sure, David, you probably were shaking and vibrating on some level. And then they'll pop up and they're good. And they move on with the rest of their life. And what we have done is we've created a business out of doing that. Like now we get people to lay down, breathe really intensely.
But do you keep like the tiger in there too? And like
no tigers. There's no tigers.
I was just like, wait a second here.
There's no lions. There's no actual danger or threat, but we're tapping into ancient trauma circuitry inside of our system so that it can be liberated. And that's really what we do.
That's so beautiful. I love the balance both of you have with like the science perspectives and bringing that in there with deep spiritual connection. And just a quick reflection of what you were saying there, Cory, is like, it's, to me, when I hear that, it feels so liberating to know that within my own body, my body already has all the power to heal. And we just haven't been taught how to access and tap into that power. But it's crazy because we live in a world where we're sold that everything that we need to heal, feel better, feel good about ourselves lives outside. When really we've been born into a body that has everything we could possibly need. And we just don't know how to tap into it.
It was just forgotten.
We've forgotten.
We've forgotten. And then there's an opportunity to forget and also remember. And I think those are two paths that you can go down. And so if you're feeling that itch, that pull, just know that there are already tools and circuitry within your body. You just need to understand a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of wisdom on how to get there, and then consistently do it. This isn't like a one and done thing. I mean, yes, me and Jessica have had people come to our classes or our sessions or our individual one-on-ones and had a massive breakthrough, and that's it. They're good and they're on their way. But there's blocks, there's resistance. And me and Jessica talk about why we call this breath work. We say it for a reason, because it's fucking work. Like you come to our class, you're going to work. You're going to come out of it and be like, man, I feel like I just worked out 60 minutes.
It's an emotional, spiritual, energetic workout.
Yeah. And so in order to get yourself into that state, it takes work. And so people do have to come consistently. And sometimes people will say, how many times do I have to come? And I go, well, how long have you had this trauma? And they're like 10 years. And I'm like, well, at least give it 10 months, to get it fully out of your system so that you can rewire your brain so you can finally not have to think about it anymore or have to like put energy in to resist those thoughts or those emotions or those feelings. And then you constantly feel like you're battling yourself with your trauma and then you're exhausted. So it really is the work. And yes, it like, of course, me and Jess are going to sit here and we're going to say like, it's the best thing ever, but it's going to for most people take a couple times for them to finally get that trauma out of their body so that they can feel fully liberated.
Love that. I think something I'd love to add too to what you said. So when people come and say, hey, how long should it take? To me, as soon as you prompted that question, I'm like, the answer is until, right? It's like, it's just until. There is no answer. It's until it is truly moved on and completed and processed, sort of thing. Some people it could take 10 months. Some people it could take the 10 years. Like it really, there is no timeline to it. And it's about committing to the until.
Right. And the great thing about breath work that we always talk about is that it's an active form of meditation, because I'm someone who really struggled with meditation because my thoughts in my mind would just dominate no matter how long or how often I did it. And so for people that are like, oh, how is this different than like meditation or just mindfulness? No, this gets you out of your head. Like when you breathe in this pattern, it actually shuts off the higher order functioning within your brain so that you can go into deeper parts of your nervous system. So people that have struggled for years come to our class or one of our sessions or our programs and go, oh my God, I finally found something that I can do.
Love that. Love that. Love that. So what I'd like to get into, so we talked about the past, we're active in the present. Naturally, we're so curious, like you guys are in many ways at the forefront of breathwork. Like arguably you guys are like leading the charge on what it means to push breathwork to the limits. I'm curious, have there been things you've been recently discovering or exploring or experimenting with? Like what's next for you guys? How are you going to continue to innovate this world? I'd love to explore those, the imaginary thoughts you guys have maybe had and unravel that a bit.
Yeah. I'd say that's definitely changed and evolved due to the climate and the times.
Right.
But really where I think our work is to share this work with others so that they can share it with their community. And that's why we had so many people come up to us and say, oh my God, you've changed my life, which we haven't. We're not gurus. We're not your fucking guru. You did that yourself. You're your own healer. And they want to know, how can I do this work? How can I share this with other people? So that's why we've created a breathwork teacher training course that's 8 weeks. And we really dive into all this, of course, the science, of course, the energetics, but we really help people cultivate their own voice, because it's your own history, your own expression that comes out in this work.
Yes.
So when we're leading and we're facilitating these classes or these experiences, I don't have a script. I don't know what I'm going to say next.
Love it.
It's really, I'm speaking into the space and it's in pure flow. And in order for people to do that, they have to go through our training. They have to explore their voice, their leadership, understanding who they are in the world and what their deepest why is. And coming from that place, then you can share this work. Because honestly, the actual technique itself, incredibly simple. It's belly chest out, in and out through the mouth. The end. We're done with the podcast.
That's the secret.
That's the secret, everybody. Oh my gosh, there's so many people that go on podcasts and they're like talking about breathwork. I'm like, it's in and out. All right. But
get over it, move on.
Outside of that, like, of course there's nuance. But yeah, our mission, our path is to train other people to become facilitators themselves, so that they can create the ripple that'll change the world.
So beautiful. Jessica, anything you want to add to that?
I think that's been it, is really, it's training other people, because I know what it's like to be in that position of like, holy shit, like my life has changed. How do I share this with other people? And some people just have that calling, and we want to set people up to be able to become facilitators and bring healing into their own communities. Because we've gotten to a point where it's like, it can't just be the two of us. And yes, there's many other facilitators out there, but we can only impact so many people, the two of us. But if we can train other people, that ripple is just like, it's unstoppable. And what I also love, and what we're really stepping into, is also helping people with the business of breathwork. because unfortunately, I see too many spiritual healers and light workers and energy workers that have such a gift, yet they don't know how to share it. And they also don't know how to create success and financial freedom with their gifts. And then it just becomes a side hustle or a thing that, they do it, but they're scraping by. So then they become bitter towards the work because they're like, oh, like I'm trying to survive and also do this thing that I really, really love and I'm passionate about, and it's just not working.
Mm-hmm.
And so nothing lights me up more than seeing people win, seeing people succeed and doing what they love and making really good money doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is also the direction that we're moving in to support people, not only just who have learned how to become facilitators through our training program, people maybe who have gone through somebody else's training program and they identify as a breathwork facilitator or a healer in some way, and supporting them and really growing.
She's right. Like, we've done all the trainings and like what we share, you don't get. We had to come up with it. So yeah, it's so true when it comes to just like business and spirituality. Yeah.
Powerful. I think this is a really good, you guys are naturally leading us into this direction, but one of the core values of Beyond the Peak and of this podcast is really to help show people what it's like to, or show people that they can live a life that is, they're both successful in their impact, but they also don't have to sacrifice their own well-being, and that they could live in accordance to the way they want to live, and they could still prioritize their family, and they could prioritize their joy, and they could prioritize their peace. And I hear that in the way that you both speak. It's like, yes, you have this beautiful desire to impact humanity and to teach this work. And I also hear you, and I hear two people who are deeply connected, who are healthy, who are happy, who are in joy. And so I'd love to hear both of your takes on sort of how can you live a life that is both deeply fulfilling and at the same time have a lot of success and create a big impact on the world, because I think sometimes it's so hard to find that balance.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Two things come to me right away. The first one was boundaries. Boundaries. Cory recently called me the boundary queen last week. Like, okay, you got boundaries for days. It's so true. I think in the beginning of our work, we didn't have really a whole lot of boundaries with each other, with our work, with our clients. And we were just kind of doing it all day, all night, all the time, and trying to serve everyone. And while that I think is underneath the surface is like a really good intention to have, that you like, I want to just serve as many people as possible. And I want to help people. I want to do what I can. In doing that, some people go too far, I believe, and then they get burnt out themselves, or there's nothing left for them. So it's really understanding your boundaries and what you can hold each and every day and honoring those, and knowing that by saying no or creating a boundary with a client is not mean, it's not wrong. And it's just respecting your time so you can show up more fully. So boundaries is number one. And then also, I believe it comes with continuing to do the work yourself, continuing to heal yourself, rather than coming from this place of, okay, I'm the one that's, has the success and the impact, and like, I'm complete, my journey's done, and I'm just going to share with other people. It's recognizing that you're still an evolving human being and continuing to do the work and learning along the way. And so for us, I mean, even though we've been doing this together for the last 3 years or so full time, we're continuing to do the work too. I'm learning so much every single day. Like every time I hop into breath work, there's something else that opens up for me. And what that does is it just creates more success because I'm able to share that with people. I'm able to connect with people more deeply. And so I believe that with those two things, that's helped us continue to grow, I would say. I'd love to hear
what's coming to mind to me, more applicable. Get out a piece of paper right now. Like, if you want to change your life, get out a piece of paper, and on top
I've got a Google Doc. Does that work?
Yeah, that works. Yeah, at the top of it, write out, okay, at the top, just label it like my typical day. Okay, so just label my typical day. Okay, try to put a line down the middle if you can. It's a Google Doc or whatever it is, just justify to the left. And I want you to write out 2
columns. That's what you do.
Yeah. What are the top 10 things that you do on a typical day? Like, and maybe it could be personal, it could be more business, it could be more health related, It could even be like, hey, I cook a meal at this certain time of day. What are the top 10 things that just come to your mind? Okay. Just write those down. And I'm not going to give you time. You're going to have to pause this podcast.
Oh, don't worry. I'm going to start going. Don't worry.
Yeah,
omelet in the morning.
On the right column, so right justified, I want you to look at each one of those line items, all those 10 things. So look at the first thing. And I want you to look at that and just answer this question, which is, does that give me energy? Do I feel energized after I have done that thing? And if it does, put an up arrow. If it gives you, doesn't really give you energy, but it doesn't deplete your energy, neutral arrow to the side. If it depletes your energy, give it a down arrow. And I want you to do that for all 10 of those things. And afterwards, take a roll call, take an assessment and say, okay, during my typical day, those 10 things, what does my day energetically look like? And if you got 8 down arrows, you got some changes to make.
You're messed up, bro.
Even if you got 5 down arrows, you got some changes to make because your energy is going in directions that do not support what you want your typical day to look like. Yeah. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah. And if you want to take this even farther, like write out your entire day from like when you wake up, what do you do right from the get-go all the way until you go to bed, and write out that whole day and like go through every line item and do those arrows, and then focus on the ones that start with the ones that are down arrows. How can I shift that to an up arrow? What needs to happen? Do I need to like cut this out? Do I need to set a boundary? Do I need to just do it differently in some way? Could I delegate it to somebody else? Focus on those down arrows and then start to focus on the neutral ones. Okay, maybe it's neutral and it doesn't really give you or deplete your energy, but could it turn into up arrow too? Like the goal is to do as much as you can to have things that are up arrows throughout your day that give you life, that give you energy, and really sustain that over time.
Love
and it
that.
starts day to day. That's where it starts.
Totally. Love that. And I think really at the end of the day, what this comes to, and sorry, David, I know you're excited, but it's that awareness. It's coming back to that awareness.
Yeah.
I also thought of nicknames for you guys. So we've got Boundary Queen and Arrow King. Just saying.
I love it. We'll take that on for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we're definitely coming to the end of our time here, running up the clock. So one thing I'd love to ask is, so I know that you had something in mind for our audience that you'd like to share with them. I'd love to hear a bit more about that and let them know where they can go to find that.
Sure. Yeah. So we have, if you want to just get started with the breathwork, okay, this sounds awesome. Like, where can I start? What's a practice that I can just do every single day? And I say, start with either the box breathing that I guided you through, or even more simple is breath awareness. Again, because becoming aware of our breath, it helps to calm our nervous system. And when we can deepen our breath and really slow down our breathing, it can slow down all the chatter in our mind and really help us slow down throughout the day and find more flow. And so we have a guided breath awareness audio, or what we call a mindful breath audio that is on our website. So if you go to thehealingcouple.com, that will pop up and you can just put your name and your email in and you'll get that right to your inbox. It's a downloadable audio. So you can download that and be able to listen to that every single day. It's super short. It's about 8 minutes. So I think we overcomplicate these kinds of practices, and we think we have to take like an hour, 2 hours out of every single day. And it can just be as simple as 8 minutes. So that's like our free gift to anybody who wants to start diving into this work to experience a little bit more calm and relaxation. But if you want to take it to the next level, if you want to experience the reset breathwork method and like go all the way in and really transform your whole life, we have an 8-week group coaching and breathwork program called the Reset Breathwork Immersion. So that's like a really deep dive. It's a very intimate container where you go deep with us and a few other people. And, week after week, we focus on different themes throughout to really apply to your life. And most people, when they come out of that program, they're like, I look back and I don't even know who that person was when I first started. So we do that twice a year. And for those who want to go take it to, like all the way to the top, all the way in and want to share this work. If it's a calling for you, like it was for us to share this modality, we have our teacher training, which again is all on thehealingcouple.com.
Amazing.
Love that. Yeah, I was about to ask like where to go for that kind of thing.
Yeah, we'll include all the links in the description so everybody knows where to go. They can get that free gift. And guys, thank you so much.
One quick thing. Sorry, I gotta say one thing that's cool about the freebie. So if it's the one that I did, So I did do it. You also get to hear Cory's majestic voice. So it's you get
Arrow
the
King.
Yeah, you get the Arrow King voice. So you got both majestic voices. Just saying. All right, you can take it away, David. You
love it. Well, I just wanted to say thank you, both of you, for just showing up today, expressing yourself, expressing your work. It's really amazing work that you guys have done. And although I haven't participated in your specific breathwork method, I've done my own breathwork experiences, and they've been absolutely transformative. I'd love to do it with you guys one day, so I will take you up on that. But I know how powerful it can be. And right now, especially, the world really needs this type of work. So thank you both for just doing what you do, following your heart, being willing to not listen to society's expectations of you and go your own path, to embrace the journey you guys are on right now, because it's huge. A lot of people are too afraid to do it, but both of you are courageous enough to not only do it, but do it together. And I think that's so beautiful, is to see the dynamic between you two and the way that you both lead this work together.
Thank you so much for saying that. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So and the last thing before we finish is just if there's any last things that you guys wanted to share with our audience, something on your hearts, mind, body, soul, that you feel needs to be shared beyond what you've already beautifully done.
Yeah. I actually had a reflection today, which I'm getting pretty close to like the 5-year mark on when that ribbon got cut and everything transpired. And if I knew that my life would be here at this place, I think I would have worked so much harder and so much faster to get myself there. And so for everybody that like wants to get to their kingdom or their queendom, whatever that land is that you desire to be, just know that like you're right where you need to be, and just take that next step. Like, don't try to jump like 30 steps ahead, because you won't appreciate where you're at by the time that you're there. So from one human being to another, whoever's listening to this, I hope that resonated.
Beautiful.
Love that.
Thank you so much.